to that point. All right. Everyone see the deck? Sweet. So a little bit more about me. My name is Jeff Henriod. I joined the outcomes team 2 months ago, and I lead our employer partnership effort. So I lead outreach to employers to help get you guys jobs. I'll tell you a little bit more about my background, but first let's talk about why we're here today. So my objective first is to give you guys more insight into what we are doing on a partnership front to help making the job search easier. So that's really the whole objective. The second part of that, we're creating something new. It's called recruiting activities, okay? For your purpose, a recruiting activity is any interaction with a company, with a Lambda school hiring partner or employer partner that we facilitate, right? So if a company decides to do a webinar to present to our students, that would be a recruiting activity. If we do an in-person meetup event where we invite employers, that would be a recruiting activity. If a company comes to us and says, we want to interview 10 candidates, that would be a recruiting activity. So we'll talk about what you're going to need to do to qualify for those recruiting activities. We'll also talk about what we're doing to spin up a lot of them. So we'll talk about what I do at Lambda. We'll talk about what our partners are saying. I'm basically on the phone all day. We'll talk about what we're doing to help you get jobs. We'll talk about what you should be doing to get jobs. And then we'll have time at the end for questions. I will try my best. Well, I'm going to try a little bit to check the questions as they come in through Zoom. But I think the easiest thing for me will be to have a question Q&A session at the end of the deck. All right. So a little bit more about me. Here's just like my quick career background. So right out of my undergrad, I joined Teach for America. I taught middle school language arts in Memphis, Tennessee for 2 years. I loved it. It will probably go down as the hardest job I've ever had, but it was a ton of fun and I learned a lot. From there, I went to business school. So I got a master's in business administration from the University of North Carolina. While I was there, I interned with an ed tech startup called Pluralsight. And then out of business school, I went to Amazon. And I worked at Amazon in marketing and product management for 3 years. Had a really wonderful time. For those of you that aren't familiar with product management, here's a simple way to summarize it. One of the dev managers that I worked with, the way he would describe product management is he would say, all right, Jeff, your job is to tell us the what and the why of what we're going to build. Our job as developers is to figure out the how. And that was always a really helpful framework for me to think of my own job as a product manager as well as what the developers were doing. So I was doing a lot of what and why at Amazon. If you have questions about the projects that I worked on, happy to share more details. I'm on Slack, hit me up anytime. And that probably should have been the preface. Every interaction I've had with a Lambda student has only like reinforced and solidified that I made the right choice to come here. So please hit me up on Slack. I don't mind having a bunch of student outreach. I actually love it. And it's the part of the job that's my favorite. So let's talk about why I joined Lambda School. I think it's important for you guys to know this. So like many of you, Austin's tweeting is insane, and his tweets really caught my attention. That was the first thing. I'd been following his tweets for a few months. So I reached out to Austin and said, you know, there aren't many opportunities that I would leave Amazon for right now, but this is the type of thing that I'd be interested in, giving my passion for education and some of my background. That started the conversation. And as the conversations progressed, I decided that I needed to, once the offer was on the table, before deciding whether to move my family, leave a really good job, join a startup, I needed to determine if there was real substance underneath the buzz at Lambda School, right? Because we've got the buzz down for sure, which is a huge advantage. But so I needed to get the substance. So what I did is I started watching the capstone videos. And not only did I watch the capstone videos, I shared the capstone videos with development managers that I worked with and engineers that I worked with at Amazon. So these were people that I mean, most of them weren't entry-level engineers. These are people that are hiring engineers at Amazon, which has a really high hiring bar. So they're doing consistently. So I shared the videos with them to get their feedback on what they thought about these students and whether they were hireable, for lack of a better word. And I'll just simply put, after all of those conversations, the feedback I received from these hiring managers and from other developers convinced me that Lambda School graduates were hireable. And that's what I needed to really make the jump. So I joined Lambda because I believe that it's possible for you to get really great jobs, and I want to help you do it. So that's why I'm here. So let's talk about what I do. So this flattering photo of Holdy and me is a representation of what I do all day. So I am on calls all day long. I have dozens of calls a week with potential partners, with current partners. And I'm talking to them about their hiring needs. I'm talking to them about what they need in juniors. I literally ask every single one of them, what would need to be true for you to hire a Lambda grad, right? So I'm on the phone all day long. And I'm also writing a lot of emails, by the way. So I'm writing partners, I'm talking to partners, I'm like dreaming of partners. That's what I do. And we've had really good results. So just in the last 2 months of talking, we've had dialogue with over 100 companies. So these are companies, I'm not talking like email dialogue. I'm talking either in-person meeting or on the phone, right? With more than 100 companies. 60 of these companies have so far sourced Lambda students as candidates for open roles that they have right now. More than 20 of these companies have interviewed Lambda grads for open roles that they have right now. If you see the logos on the bottom, like just in our inbound leads, right, we are attracting top brands. And this was actually eye-opening to me to see how many folks are kind of coming to the table. These are companies that I respect and admire, but these are companies that all across the bottom that I'm in conversations with right now. A couple of them are already in the process of talking to Lambda grads as we speak. So lots of good things are happening and lots of good things are in motion. I think it's important for you guys to understand that. I know you probably haven't always had like tons of insight into it. So what are they saying? I'm not going to talk about like all the different snippets that you're looking at, but one thing I will call out on Monday, the top 2 tweets you see there from Austin, I was in that meeting. So we're sitting with the leadership team of a technology company, and they tell us to our face, we have interviewed 8 of your grads, we've hired 7 of them, and it typically takes our new hires 4 to 6 weeks to ramp up. Yours ramp up in 2 days, right? And I mean, that type of feedback, it almost sounds hyperbolic, right? Like if you weren't in the room, you might wonder, like, is Austin just throwing stuff out to juice the Lambda, like the Lambda love? But it was legitimate, and so it's powerful. And the other thing I want you to understand is why they're saying it, right? And as you start thinking about recruitment, it's critical for you to understand they're saying this because of great experiences that they've had with students, right? I can talk to them. I can pitch you guys hard. Austin can tweet. We cannot have the same impact that they have when they actually talk to a student and it's a great interaction, or when they hire a student and that student delivers. So I think the perfect example is Nexient, right? So you see Jaram, he's center left. He was the first Nexient hire. Jaram made such a strong impression and performed so well, they've since hired 7 more, right? But what I want you guys to think about is there is an alternate universe where Jaram shows up 15 minutes late for his Nexient interview, right? Where he gets to the job, he doesn't treat his coworkers well, right? Where he misses the interview altogether. He's not prepared for it. So that alternate universe exists, and if that had happened, I guarantee you we would have placed 1 student at Nexient, not 7. And if you start projecting this stuff out a few years, it gets really powerful. The point is, you represent the full Lambda network, right? And the students, all of our alumni will benefit from you guys performing well with hiring partners, those who are yet to come. So every time we have a good interaction with an employer, it enhances the brand that we all share. And so I want you guys, you have to have that in your mind when you're understanding the way you have to have that in mind to really appreciate the way that we're building our recruiting program, as well as anytime you're interacting, because it's not just about us as individuals, right? It's about this Lambda brand, which can carry a lot of weight for all of us, right? I am getting into meetings that I have no business getting into meetings, like of my own network or just by myself. It's because of the Lambda brand. And to see a company that's 1 year old with like the brand power that we have is a really special thing. So just remember that you represent Lambda. And Austin Kutcher, I always say his name wrong, but those hats are pretty dope, and it helps every time he wears them. All right, so a couple more things. It's hard to get feedback on jokes here, so it's either like a really tough crowd or you just plow through.
Ha ha ha.
Yeah, there we go. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, so we've got all these employers that we're talking to. I think we're phase one. We're day one. I've been here 2 months. I'm just figuring it out. I'm going to be hiring a team to like help expand these outreach efforts. We're day one, but still there's action for you to get in on. And when I say action, I mean, how do you get in on these events with hiring partners? So first thing, company presentations. We have our first company presentation happening next Friday, okay? This is similar to like an on-campus recruitment presentation that happens at traditional universities all across the country. So they are recruiters. They are coming here because they want to hire Lambda grads, right? It doesn't mean that they're going to hire all the students in that session. It doesn't mean they're hiring someone right now. It means that they want to recruit Lambda grads because they believe in us and they want to establish a pipeline. So they will be pitching their company, they will be pitching their open roles, and they will be telling you what they look for in junior hires. First one's next Friday. We'll have more of those. Those are open to all students. And I should put an asterisk, any or all of this could change with time. But right now, that's the plan. Open for all students. We want you guys to hear what companies have to say, hear their take on what they want to see. Next thing, so eligibility to apply to a partner company. So we have companies that come to us and they say, hey, we want to look at some grads. Let's open up an application, right? To do that, you're going to need a career coach endorsement. I'm going to explain how to get that endorsement in a minute. Next thing is Lambda-sponsored in-person events. This is something new that we're going to start experimenting with during Q4. We probably won't double down until Q1. We have some unique considerations to think about, given that we are a remote company and we have people all across the country. But we're going to try and launch some micro events, right? So for different regions where we have employers come and you would meet face-to-face, kind of like a career fair. And then we have some more stuff to be announced. Like we have technology. I'd summarize it like this. We are working on technology to give Lambda grads easier exposure to hiring companies. So if any of you have seen, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. We're going to create a way to make it a lot easier for companies to search our students without us like being a gate and handing them resumes. So how do you get endorsed by your career coach? This is a lot of the stuff that you've probably already heard. And I think I'll say it in case it's not clear, but the reason we need a career coach endorsement is because of the brand that I just articulated, right? We need to be confident that anyone we put forward for a partner is someone that's going to make a good impression, is someone that partner will be willing to come back because it'll be a good impression. And that is not going to be a bar that is impossible to reach. It's possible for every single one of you to reach that bar, and our goal is for every single one of you to reach that bar. So this is not a way for us to somehow narrow the pool so only 20% of Lambda grads talk to hiring companies, right? If you do what's in here, you will be able to talk to partners. So first thing, if you graduated, you need to actively participate in Next. I'm not going to jump into that. I don't run the Next program. I know there have been some changes, but I believe that it's all clear like where Next stands, but you need to actively be participating in Next. Next thing is GitHub is green. So this is something, when I first started, I wondered if Holdy was being a little crazy about this, like a candidate without a green GitHub is not hireable. I cannot tell you how many times I'm talking to potential employers and it's the hiring managers, right? Like the recruiters, maybe not. But once I get to the decision maker, they tell me the first things they do when they're talking to a candidate, they're going to pull up that GitHub, right? If they want to see a portfolio, they're going to look at the GitHub and see if the candidate is still working day to day. They don't care necessarily if you have a job or not, but they want to know, are you continuing to code? Next thing is your portfolio. Portfolio needs to be ready. Career coach will sign off on that. Resume needs to be ready. And then you have to have met the sprint mastery requirement, which is TBD right now. But it'll be consistent with whatever the Lambda school sprint mastery requirement is for graduation. It'll be the same thing. So another way to think of this is if you're on track for graduation, you're green, right? You're totally green. You're going to be able to talk to partners. All right. Next thing. So this is you can call, I mean, whatever, fine graphic, not my best graphic, but it conveys the point. Is Lambda going to hand you a job on a silver platter? No, we're not. But there's a big but. Our job is to train you with all of the relevant skills you need and bring employers to the table. So we might not be bringing that job on a silver platter, but we're going to be making it as easy as possible for you to get that job. So one thing I want to point out here. So I went to business school, and in MBA programs are kind of the laughing stock of graduate education. And the reason why is people say the academics are not rigorous, which is kind of true, right? And that the whole reason people go to business school is to get a job, which is totally true. So an entire MBA program is focused on getting a job. So in an MBA program where you have a massive recruitment team, you have huge on-campus recruitment efforts, even there, they told us on our own, outside of all the campus recruitment stuff, we needed to apply to more than 50 jobs on our own, right? And that number is probably even low. So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. Like, ideally in an MBA program, you're doing a lot of work on your own, but you also have the on-campus that's kind of taking the edge off, right? They're giving you a handful of leads that you can walk into. You're going to source some good opportunities through on-campus, but no one should rely entirely on on-campus only. So here's the right analogy. The right analogy is a home run derby, okay? So forgive me if you're not like a sports fan. I'm a sports fan. If you're not a baseball fan, I'm not either, okay? This is the only bit of baseball I've watched all year was Bryce Harper's home run derby run. So here's why I bring up the home run derby. So in a home run derby, you have 4 minutes. Each batter has 4 minutes to hit as many home runs as he possibly can, right? And you'll notice the pitcher is much closer, right? And the pitcher here is a teammate. So in this situation, Bryce Harper's pitcher is actually his dad, right? So this is the same guy that's been throwing him batting practice his entire life. He knows exactly where Bryce wants the ball. He knows how hard he should throw it. Like, he knows how to throw him the perfect pitch. And so it's just making it easier, right? So I view my job and the outcomes team, we are the pitcher in a home run derby. We are trying to throw you softballs, just lob it out there, give you like the perfect opportunity that you can just smash, right? And we're trying to give every student a couple of those is the goal. But as the Lambda student, and I don't want to take this thing too far. You can go crazy with analogies, and this is supposed to be kind of fun. But I actually think it's a really good analogy. As the Lambda student, like Bryce Harper has put in hours and hours of work, right? He is ready for that pitch He's ready for it. He's ready to smash it. He's on the same page with his dad. So that's you guys. Here's another way to look at it. If I were to walk into a big league ballpark right now, I don't care who's pitching me the ball, there's no way I'm getting that thing over the fence, right? Like if I'm hitting with a wooden bat, I'm lucky to get it out of the infield. So the point is, you can't just walk into it. It still takes effort. It still takes a lot of work, but we are going to try and take the edge off it and make it as easy as possible. I'm just going to glance at some notes to make sure I'm covering everything I wanted to cover. One other thing, just back to the brand, to make that point a little clearer, that happened today, right? So today I received another email. This is a different company, one that I haven't talked about. They hired a Lambda grad 2 months ago. They've opened 5 new positions. And he told me, he said, we are going to reserve Lambda slots to interview for this position. He said, I'm holding off the recruiters. Like, we're not going to really do the recruitment pitch. We're not going to do the recruitment push for another week or so because we want to give Lambda grads an opportunity. But they're doing this because the one Lambda grad they've hired has been so strong. So can't hit that home enough. So how can you be ready? So big thing, you can be ready for those big, fat lob pitches that we're going to throw you if you help us help you, right? Pay attention in class, master the material. Actively participate in Next. Keep your GitHub green. Build a strong portfolio. Like all the work you're doing in Lambda, that matters. Take it seriously. Listen to your career coaches. And then last thing is complete your preferences form. And a lot of you probably have no idea what that is. We'll send it out again. But basically, we have a quick survey where I want to know, where do you live now? Where do you want to work? And if you have a dream list of like 2 or 3 companies, and frankly, if Google is your dream company, like I'm talking to Google, but like the more specific you can be, great. I know every one of you would like to work at Google. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm actually trying to work backwards from an individual student level to get you jobs. So for example, I've had 2 students this week. I know exactly where they want to go. I know which companies they want to be at. I've reached out to both of those companies. I had a conversation today with someone at PetSmart. So we have a student who really wants to work at PetSmart. I was able to get in contact with that recruiter so we can feed the lead. Another lead in Atlanta. Student told me where they want to work. I reached out to the CTO. I got an intro to the student, right? So when we do, like there's a way to go about this, but when we give you the preferences form, complete it. We're doing it so we can help you. The more info we have, the more it can help. All right, man, without any feedback, it really does feel like just a hardcore lecture. Like I'm just preaching up here. It's okay. All right, so yeah, complete the feedback form. That's gonna be that will be the takeaway from this session is we will send the feedback form, and we're actually not gonna send it to every single cohort. I think we wanna wait till you're like 6 or 7 weeks in before we have you do it. So if you don't get it, don't be alarmed, but we will share that afterwards. Please complete it. So I'm scared to see the comments here. There's 68. I don't know if people are just ragging on me or if we have a lot of really good questions or what. So with that, we will jump into questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. This is crazy, but I lost my mouse. I don't know what's going on. This is weird. My mouse is not working when the
You may need to hit escape, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm trying. It's somehow locked in presentation mode. Was that Kevin there?
Yes.
So I'm going to keep trying this. I can see the...
Is it Keynote that's locked or is it Zoom in full screen?
Yeah, does anyone know the shortcut to get out of Zoom full screen? I think it's Keynote that's locked. Oh, here we go.
Maybe you can, this is Patrick, Jeff, maybe if you Command Tab until you cycle into Keynote and then Command Q to just quit out of Keynote.
All right, let's try that.
I find it helps to rub my computer gently on the side and whisper sweet nothings to it.
Okay. Listen, I'm just glad this didn't happen at the start. This is a great the Command Tab is not working. So what we can do to get to the questions, like Kevin, you could drop them in my Slack. I could pull up Slack on my phone and just go through that way. That seems like super roundabout, but it's a hack that would work.
Yeah, I'll do that right now.
Cool. All right.
Almost there.
Thanks, everyone, for your patience.
Oh, it's too big.
Just do chunks at a time. Let me do the stop share. I don't know. This is really weird.
I don't know if this is obvious, but is it out of the question just to Command Q since you're already focused in Keynote?
Let's see. Bingo. All right. Something there.
Hey.
Something great happened there. I think we're in business. So, all right. I can see the questions now. So, all right. I'm just going to go to the top of the stack. All right. Any questions? I'm seeing a lot of just like shout outs. Yeah, and some good jokes. I get it. This is like, the comments went from like 60 to 120 as soon as I had that issue. All right.
Can we verbally ask questions?
Sure.
Awesome. So regarding participation with the like recruiting and career events, can we participate in those before we graduate?
Yes. So I'm going to wait until, so Caleb will have more to announce along those lines, but we are making some changes to the program to facilitate those type of interactions earlier in the program, but we will have like a clear definition for which week that can begin.
Awesome. Thanks.
Oh, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Do you have a list of the current partner companies? We could maybe look them up, get a little more background on them before we make a preference to know what the partners are.
Yeah.
Or is there a way we can look that up online? Or
so we will get something soon. So soon enough, if the presentations start, you're going to have an idea who's there. So here's some more context that would help, right? One of the things that we're looking at building, and this is like maybe Q1, but we need to build like our own internal version of a job board, right? So then companies could come, they would post directly there, and you guys will have like a direct line on who's posting to Lambda, right? So obviously you'd have to be eligible to have access to the job board. So right now we don't have a great way to do that other than just like we're kind of sharing opportunities. But we're working on it. We're not trying to like hide anything. It's just we need the right mechanism to broadcast stuff widely.
sounds like a good student project.
Sure, yeah. And we're working on another one actually, which is to get your kind of like an online student profile. This is what I alluded to earlier. I'll just like share the news. It helps us double down on the commitment when we share it publicly with 300 people. So, but we're making basically an online profile would be like, think of it as like an online version of your resume, GitHub links, other things there. And then we'll give partners access to that directly and they could source candidates directly there. So yeah. I'm seeing a good question here. The GitHub account we are using right now, should that be the same one that we present to potential employers? So I believe so, but I will confirm that with Holdy. Patrick, you have info there?
Yeah, I would say definitely yes. And I also wanted to address a point about the heat map, the contribution graph that's on your GitHub profile. There is a thing about GitHub where, what is the limitation? Commits that are made in a fork won't count towards your contribution. And there's an extra step to get them to count and to also maintain the chronology of commits so that they show up on that heat map. What I'm going to do right now is in the Principles for Success channel, I'm going to drop a link that explains this from GitHub and also shows a way to resolve this issue so that you do get your commits chronologically represented in the contribution graph. If I can just, there we go. So here's the link. It's help.github.com. Why are my contributions not showing up on my profile? Specifically because a commit was made in the fork. The thing that you will need to do is contact GitHub support. They are very responsive. Every time I've written to them, I've heard back from them within 24 hours. And I believe what they ask is that you give them a list of the repositories you have that are forks, which you would like deforked, which is a funny word if you say it enough times. But what I would recommend is that you wait until after labs before deforking your projects, because while you're a student, we want to maintain that relationship. And I am working with Holdy and Brian Doyle as well to see about just implementing a structure and a time and a place to have that would be appropriate for students to do this. But essentially, once you're done with your unit track, once you're done with comp sci or the different development courses that you're working in, it would be best not to do that while you are still actively working on the curriculum. So we do have an option available through GitHub. It just involves contacting them. But Jeff, you made a great point about that GitHub contribution graph just being a very go-to, like, okay, let's poke at this person's repository, see what kind of activity they've been using. And so to answer the question that was asked, with that in mind, I would very much recommend using the GitHub account that you are a student with while you are applying for work, so that you get that activity accurately represented out to the marketplace.
Yep. So one other thing I should call out, right? Part of the reason we're doing this so early in Principles for Success is obviously because I want you guys to understand, like we want you to understand like how this is all going to flow into the job search, this whole track of Principles for Success, right? So I want you guys to see kind of have the incentive of why we're doing it. One thing I also want to throw out there just to make sure, like, please don't stop. Like when you're done and you're ready to start applying to jobs, right? You should absolutely be sourcing jobs on your own and applying to your jobs on your own, right? I know I said this a few times, but it's just really important to reiterate. Our goal is to prepare you to do that well and to bring in some other partners to the table where it almost is like a referral. But by all means, you should also be sourcing your own opportunities. I can't stress that enough. There is such a high correlation with the grads that have jobs right now with how much work they put into the job search and those that actually found jobs, right? So the goal is to make it easier. We are not going to make it easy. That's the reality, right? And maybe in the fullness of time, we get there if our brand becomes so powerful that like folks just show up and they're like, give me a Lambda grad, hired, done. But like we're not there today, but we will. The goal is to make it easier, but it's not going to be easy. So, all right. Is this presentation applicable to iOS job opportunities as well? Yes. So right now, this is kind of the default approach for all of Lambda School. Does Lambda next adjust to time zones? So I don't know if we have someone from Next here can speak to that, but I believe they're moving to an asynchronous model for Next. And so the short answer is yes, someone will have a better answer. I don't know if we need to elaborate on it now. Yeah, we'll make sure you get these videos after. I'll talk to Sabrina about like making sure we have the right channels. So recruiters have a problem with using Lambda projects in your portfolio. So the answer to that is no, right? They like to see Lambda projects in your portfolio. The truth is, the more projects you have that are good projects, the better. So I wouldn't think that, like, do not think that quantity wins here, right? If you have like 6 mediocre projects, like, I don't think that's necessarily going to be better than like 2 or 3 really robust ones. But your Lambda projects are absolutely game for your portfolio. It is a good idea to have some of your own as well. And I think that's something the curriculum team is thinking about, like how to give you guys time to do that. That's one of the big goals of Next as well, right? Is to give you an opportunity to work on stuff. It's funny, like when I talk to the people that are actually deciding, right? And I've said this once, but they don't really care about the resumes as much as they care about the projects and the GitHub, right? Because they want to look at the code. They care about the substance. Where I would like to work with for. All right, so if you need help on like where you might want to work or what you want to do, talk to your career coach. All right, I'll scroll back up. Talk to your career coach and they can help you like piece together like how you should create your own targets. It's a process. We have career coaches. Yes, you do. I think we introduce, and forgive me if I'm missing some stuff. I'm new to Lambda too, but we don't introduce you to the career coaches on day one. So some of you in the very early cohorts, that's why you might not be familiar. And that's intentional, by the way. Let's see what else we got. So someone asked about, can you put remote as your preferred location? You can, right? I would say this, again, it's important for you guys to have eyes wide open. For junior dev roles, for entry dev roles, remote work is typically it's going to be harder to find those roles. It does not mean they don't exist. We have grads today that are working remotely. And if you're interested in remote, let me know. But most teams that I talk to, they prefer to have their juniors on site so that they can mentor them and help ease the transition, which I think is a good idea. But if you prefer remote, let us know and we can try. There's also not as many remote ops out there, at least that I'm seeing. Yeah, this is a good one. 300 computer programmers, and no one can help them close the app. All right, what a debut. It's a slam dunk. All right. Okay, so most roles I see online is a requirement of 15 years plus experience for senior dev position. So, I mean, mid to senior level developers are obviously in higher demand, right? Or think of it this way, in 2 to 3 years, after you've worked for a couple years, like your job search is going to be dramatically easier. That's how I think about it if I were you guys. There are still plenty of unfilled junior positions out there. Like there are tons. But yeah, if you're seeing like, I mean, I guess it depends on the company, but yeah, like people want experienced devs, right? But there's still plenty junior roles out there. The other thing I would say, often like when we might share a rec with you, it might say we require 2 to 3 years experience. And I can't, again, I hear it every single day. They tell me, look, if it's someone who works hard and learns quickly, we're willing to work with them. Like, we can bring them on board. If it says 2 to 3 years experience in the job description, like, we can work with them. So if it's like 10 years plus, yeah. But if it's like 2 or 3, don't see that as like an automatic disqualifier. But you should always be transparent about the experience you do have. You don't want to mislead anyone. Suggestions for looking for jobs in Silicon Valley and New York City. I would say those are like the hubs, right? So that's where you have the most opportunities. So I'd get out to meetups. I'd meet people, do the things your career coaches are telling you to do. Yeah. Has anyone said I'll volunteer for a couple weeks to prove themselves? So, just so you guys know, I have been kind of as a policy. So first of all, we've only had this come up like once or twice. We don't have people coming to us for unpaid work, but we as a company have like an ethical stance. So for our apprenticeship program, we require and we ask, we have a requirement that if you want to take a Lambda apprentice that you pay at least $30 an hour. We are not comfortable sending you to unpaid jobs as an institution. If you want to source those on your own, you're more than welcome to. So is there an advantage using Lambda hiring partners rather than finding our own? I'm so glad you asked, because the point is you should do both. So it is not a matter of which one. You should be doing both of them. Our goal is to help make it easier. Hopefully we give you hopefully from Lambda you can get some leads. But the reality is you need to be working on your own, sourcing your own. You need to do both. Something I used to think about with my students when I taught, right? As a teacher, I viewed their success like almost totally on me, and it helped push me as a teacher. But as students, I thought they would be better off if they viewed it as their responsibility was totally on them, right? And when you had both of those forces combining, that's when you have something powerful. So like I have a really high standard. We have really high internal goals for getting you guys jobs and hired, and we're working like crazy. But you should not be just counting on us to get you a job. You should not. You need to work. Does background and other education matter? It does matter. Your background matters. But what I think you guys need to realize, the employers we're talking to, they know who they are. Like, they know who you are, right? They know that they are not at Georgia Tech's engineering program. They know it's Lambda school. They know we're a non-traditional program, and they want to be here because of that. So they are eyes wide open. So I think you guys need to know that, like, they know who they're coming to, and you should not apologize or feel like you need to like obscure having a non-traditional background. And I know not all of you have that, but like this is something I'm really passionate about, because I went from teaching middle school to working at Amazon, right? And so we need to do some coaching and some other things, but for lack of a better word, like, they're coming here because we're unique candidates. And so they are eyes wide open about it. Yeah, someone said half the dev team on Facebook doesn't have a bachelor's degree, right? So you got to own it, right? Difference is good. The world doesn't need more like CS grads from traditional 4-year whatever. All right, Jordan's asking how long it goes. So I'll take one more question, and if you have more stuff, shoot me up don't shoot me up. Send me a note on Slack. Does Lambda receive a referral fee? That's a good one to end on. Feel very strongly about this. We do not receive a referral fee. And so from my position, this comes up a lot. People ask us, and this is my favorite example of how Lambda School incentives are working the way they're supposed to, right? So our incentives as a school are to help get you guys jobs, right? So we don't want to do anything that would restrict your access to employers, assuming you're ready. But like if an employer is coming and they want to hire folks, we're not going to ask for a fee because that could dissuade them from coming here. So we don't take placement fees. We don't take hiring fees. Since it's suggested we use our own leads and go through Lambda, why do you need a career coach endorsement to reach out to an application posted by a hiring partner? So I feel like this whole talk has been addressing that point. So the reason you need a career coach endorsement, if it's an interaction that we are facilitating, right? So if we are giving them a stack of resumes or anything like that, you have to have our endorsement because we have to, for all of your sakes and all of the future students and all of our alumni, we have to protect the brand, right? So that's why you have to have the endorsement. The other thing I should make clear, like if we have a company coming to us and they say, hey, we want to talk to Lambda grads, and we send them whatever, a pile of resumes, right? That's like a referral. They're going to look at those resumes. So thinking that you're just going to like circumvent it and go apply on the site, it's not the same. So yeah.
Jeff, if I could make a note about the career coaches as well, I just would love to give them a shout out because is it Megan, Courtney and Sabrina, who I know better. Megan, I think, just joined us, but they have been doing an amazing job with helping students through the whole process of preparing their resumes, of getting prepped for interviews, and especially every time a student comes to me and says, you know, hey, I got a job offer, my first thing is I tell them, contact career services because they will help you to negotiate the offer that company is going to make you. And they have done some amazing things to get students the best opportunities, packages, benefits, salaries that they can. So I can't say enough good things about career department.
Thanks, Patrick. That would have been wrong to not touch on that. So that's what we'll end on. So just last thing, for you guys to have the broad picture, the outcomes team, think of that as that's Holdy's team, right? You have Lambda Labs on one side, which is Brian Doyle is helping with labs. And then you have Sabrina and Courtney and Megan, career coaches. And then I'm doing partnerships. We all work together. When we get these leads, we're working with student success. We're working with instructors. We're working with everyone to make sure we're putting the right folks forward. Yeah, so listen, we're working hard. It's not going to be easy, but if we've ever given you the impression that it was easy to get jobs, we messed something up. But it's very doable, and you're going to get jobs, and we're doing everything we can to help. So I think with that, let's close out. Shoot me questions if you have them. We'll send a feedback form for this link, and we'll do some other stuff. I'll send you the other form as well. Thanks, everyone. Signing off.